Dean Martin was 43 seconds into his opening monologue on The Dean Martin Show when he stopped mid-sentence, looked directly at the camera, and said, "I want everyone to know that Herman Citron is no longer my manager, effective immediately, and I'm saying this on live television so there's no confusion about why." The studio audience went silent. The camera crew froze. Herman Citron, sitting in the front row like he always did, turned white as a sheet. Because Dean Martin never broke character, never went off script, and he definitely never aired personal business on live TV. But on October 14th, 1971, Dean Martin did exactly that. He fired his manager of 18 years on national television, in front of 12 million viewers, and the reason why didn't come out until 3 days later when Dean's daughter Claudia told a reporter the truth. Herman Citron didn't steal money, didn't betray Dean professionally, didn't do anything related to business at all. What Herman did was worse, at least to Dean Martin. And when Dean found out, he didn't wait, didn't call lawyers, didn't have a private meeting. He went on live TV and destroyed the man's career in 30 seconds. This is the story of what Herman Citron did, and why Dean Martin's revenge was the most brutal thing he ever did on television. The setup. Herman Citron had been Dean Martin's manager since 1953. 18 years. He'd been there when Dean split from Jerry Lewis, been there when Dean's solo career took off, been there for every movie deal, every Vegas contract, every TV negotiation. Herman made Dean rich, really rich. Negotiated deals nobody else could get, got Dean his own TV show, his own production company, made Dean one of the highest-paid entertainers in America. Dean trusted him completely. Herman handled everything: money, contracts, schedule. Dean just showed up and performed. That was the deal. Herman took care of the business. Dean took care of the entertainment. They were close. Herman came to family dinners. Dean's kids called him Uncle Herman. When Dean's mother died, Herman was at the funeral. When Dean got divorced, Herman helped him through it. They weren't just business partners. They were family. But in September 1971, something changed. Dean's daughter Claudia was 19 years old, beautiful girl, smart, studying at UCLA. She'd just gotten engaged to a boy she'd been dating for 2 years. Nice kid, college student, planning to be a lawyer. Claudia was excited, planning the wedding, picking out dresses, making guest lists. Dean was happy for her. His little girl growing up, getting married, starting her life. Then Herman Citron came to Dean's house for dinner. September 28, 1971. Regular Tuesday night. Nothing special. Spaghetti and wine. Dean, his kids, Herman. After dinner, Dean went to his study to take a business call, left everyone else in the living room. When he came back 20 minutes later, the room was tense, silent. Claudia was gone. Dean's son Richie looked angry. Herman looked uncomfortable. "Where's Claudia?" "She went to her room," Richie said. His voice was tight. "What happened?" Nobody answered. Dean went upstairs, knocked on Claudia's door. "Honey, you okay?" No answer. Just crying. Quiet, muffled crying. Dean opened the door, found his daughter on her bed, face in her pillow, shoulders shaking. "Claudia, what's wrong?" She looked up, eyes red, mascara running. "Nothing, Dad. I'm fine." "You're not fine. What happened? Just drop it, please." But Dean Martin didn't drop things, not when his kids were hurt. "Tell me what happened." Claudia hesitated, then said, "Uncle Herman told me I shouldn't marry Michael." Dean frowned. "Why would he say that?" "Because he said Michael's not good enough for me. Said he comes from a poor family. Said I should wait. Find someone with money. Someone with connections." Dean's jaw tightened. "He said that?" "Yeah." but it's fine. I don't care what he thinks." "What else did he say?" Claudia looked away. "Nothing. Claudia." She took a breath. "He said if I was smart, I'd consider my options. That he knew men. Rich men. Men who could take care of me properly. He said he could introduce me. After I broke things off with Michael." The room went cold. "He offered to set you up with other men?" Claudia nodded. Started crying again. "I told him no. Told him I love Michael. And he just smiled and said I'd change my mind. Said all young girls think they're in love, but they don't understand the real world." Dean stood there, perfectly still, perfectly calm, the way he got when he was about to explode. "Where is he now?" "I think he's still downstairs." Dean walked out, down the stairs, into the living room. Herman was putting on his coat, getting ready to leave. "Herman, we need to talk." Herman turned, smiled. "Sure, Dean, what's up?" "What did you say to my daughter?" The smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean." "What did you say to Claudia?" "I just gave her some advice. She's young. You thought you'd tell my daughter to dump her fiancé and date rich men you'd introduce her to?" Herman's face went red. "Dean, I was just looking out for her. She's marrying a kid with no money, no future. I was trying to help." "Help by setting up my 19-year-old daughter with your friends?" "That's not what I meant." "Get out of my house." Herman blinked. "What? Get out! Now!" "Dean, come on. Don't overreact." "Overreact? You tried to pimp out my daughter. Get the hell out of my house before I throw you out." Herman grabbed his coat. "You're making a mistake. You're emotional. Sleep on it. We'll talk tomorrow." "There's no tomorrow, Herman. We're done." "Dean, I've been your manager for 18 years, and now you're not. Leave." Herman left. Dean stood in the living room, shaking with rage, because Herman Citron had crossed a line you don't cross. You don't mess with Dean Martin's kids, you don't disrespect his family, and you definitely don't try to use your position to influence his daughter's life. But Dean wasn't done, because firing Herman privately wasn't enough. Not for this. This needed to be public. This needed to send a message. October 14th, 1971. The Dean Martin Show. Live broadcast. Thursday night. 12 million viewers. Dean walked out on stage. Tuxedo. Smile. The usual Dean Martin charm. Except tonight, something was different. The crew could feel it. The band could feel it. Something was about to happen. Dean grabbed the microphone, started his monologue, made jokes, got laughs, everything normal. Then, 43 seconds in, he stopped. "Before we continue, I want to address something. It's important and it needs to be said publicly." The audience went quiet. This wasn't in the script. "Herman Citron is no longer my manager, effective immediately. We've terminated our professional relationship. And I'm saying this on live television so there's no confusion, no rumors, no questions about why." Herman was sitting in the front row, his face drained of color. Dean looked right at him. "Herman, you crossed a line. You involved yourself in my family's personal life in a way that was inappropriate and unacceptable. And I will not tolerate that. Not from you. Not from anyone." The camera operators didn't know where to point. At Dean? At Herman? The director was frozen. "For 18 years I trusted you. With my career, my money, my business. But trust isn't just about business. It's about character. And you showed me your character, so we're done. Professionally, personally, we're done." Dean turned back to the audience. "Now where was I? Oh, right. I was telling you about my golf game." And he continued the show, like nothing happened, made jokes, sang songs, brought out guests, the whole 9 yards. But the damage was done. Herman Citron sat in that front row for another 15 minutes, then quietly left. By the time the show ended, every newspaper in America was calling for the story. Herman tried to defend himself, told reporters Dean had misunderstood, that he was just giving fatherly advice, that Dean had overreacted. But on October 17th, 3 days later, Claudia Martin gave an interview to the Los Angeles Times, told them exactly what Herman had said. The whole conversation, the suggestion to dump her fiancé, the offer to introduce her to wealthy men. The story exploded. Other women came forward, actresses, singers, women who'd worked with Herman over the years. Similar stories, Herman offering to help their careers by introducing them to powerful men. Herman using his position to manipulate young women. Herman Citron's career ended overnight. No major talent would work with him. No studios would take his calls. He was done, blacklisted, not by Hollywood politics, by his own actions. Dean never spoke about it again, never gave interviews, never explained further. He'd said what he needed to say on live TV. That was enough. But people close to Dean knew. This wasn't about revenge. This was about protection. Dean was protecting his daughter and sending a message to every other manager, agent, producer in Hollywood. You don't mess with people's families. You don't use your power to manipulate young women. And if you do, there are consequences. Years later, Claudia told the complete story in her memoir. Herman hadn't just given advice. He'd been pressuring her for weeks, calling her, showing up at her apartment, telling her she was making a mistake marrying Michael, and the men he wanted to introduce her to. They were his clients, rich, powerful, married. Herman was trying to set up his own client's daughter with married men because it would benefit his business relationships. When Dean found out the full extent, he was beyond furious. But he was also calculated. He could have sued Herman, could have destroyed him through legal channels. But that would take months, years. So Dean did it the Dean Martin way. Quick, public, brutal, on live TV, where 12 million people could see it, where Herman couldn't spin it, couldn't hide it, couldn't make it go away. Was it cruel? Maybe. But Dean Martin didn't care. Because when it came to his kids, Dean had one rule: you protect them. Always, no matter the cost. The story of Dean Martin firing Herman Citron isn't in most biographies. It's uncomfortable, messy, doesn't fit the cool, laid-back image people have of Dean Martin, but it's the most important story about who Dean really was. Not the entertainer, not the star, the father, the man who would burn bridges, destroy relationships, and risk his reputation if it meant protecting his children. Claudia married Michael 3 months later. Dean walked her down the aisle. Herman wasn't invited. They stayed married for 32 years, until Michael died in 2003. And every time Claudia talked about that day, about Dean firing Herman on live TV, she'd say the same thing. My father wasn't perfect. He missed birthdays. He was absent sometimes. He didn't always say the right thing. But when it mattered, when I really needed him, he showed up. And he protected me. That's what a father does. Dean Martin fired his manager of 18 years on live television, in front of 12 million people. And he did it because Herman Citron tried to use his position to manipulate Dean's daughter. That's not just revenge. That's love. That's protection. That's a father doing what fathers are supposed to do. And that's the Dean Martin story that matters more than any song he ever sang.